Okay, Podsters, this is it. This is your tipping point, your moment to take action or live with never knowing what could have been. We all have that thing that we know we are meant to do that scares us, that we're not sure we can do, and that we know we need a little help doing. My Do the Thing Fall Retreat is happening October 13th through 15th in where else? Cape Cod, in the tranquil seaside town of Truro, where I've hand selected a beach house for 9 like-minded women to get together and do the thing. You already know that there's a life waiting for you on the other side of this thing. And this powerful, intimate 2.5-day workshop is exactly what you need. If you don't do it now, you probably never will. Don't live with regret. Do the thing. Click the link, fill out the very brief application. Let's hop on a call because I want to make sure it's the right fit for you. Together, let's do the thing. Welcome to Unmute Yourself, the podcast. I'm Nancy Medoff, keynote speaker, best-selling author, executive coach, and equity evangelist who literally wrote the book on women in confidence.
And I'm Beth Knaus, creative copywriter who works with female entrepreneurs who are done putting safe and general content out there and ready to walk the fine line between honoring their bold voices and perspectives and honoring their professionalism. We are on fire and on a mission to inspire and empower you, and who are we kidding? The world, to speak up, stand out, and get your seat at the table. If you're looking for straight talk and a weekly shot of confidence, you've landed in the right place.
Beth and I met while collaborating on my #1 bestseller, Unmute Yourself and Speak Up to Stand Out. We hit it off and we knew right away that we needed to keep these important conversations going so that women around the globe will speak up and stop building our own glass ceiling. So here we are, coming at you weekly with a perfect blend of realistic strategies, actionable tools, and real life stories to bring these important and somewhat controversial ideas to life. Doing so with humor, kindness, and the occasional shenanigans.
Get ready to feel empowered and inspired to speak up, to stand out, and to build your confidence toolkit. Note to men or women who are not working in a professional capacity, we see you too, and we promise you the conversations here will inspire you as well. So buckle up, folks, because here we go.
We're back and we're live. We are live. Well, we're not live technically, are we?
We are back.
We're not live.
You and I are live to each other.
Correct. We will be live starting, I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to put it out into the universe, starting the week after this podcast episode. So, yeah. Yep. We're going to go, we are going to, so for those of you who missed it, we're going to go LinkedIn Live. Moving forward, most of our episodes will be live on LinkedIn. The benefit to you podsters is that you can send in questions in the chat as we're talking. I mean, come on, does it get any better than that, Beth?
I think that's cool.
Hey, did I tell you about my new favorite podcast, by the way?
You mean other than ours? Yeah, sure. I want to know. What is it?
It's ours. So, I forgot to tell you. I think I told you. I forgot to tell the podsters. So over the Christmas break, I was at a friend's house and I was on her treadmill and she was there doing her mirror, whatever. And I kept cracking up. I had my headphones in and I kept laughing. I was bursting out laughing like every, 5 minutes. She goes, "Are you laughing like listening to yourself right now?" I go, "Yep, we're hilarious and I love this podcast." I listen to it all the time. I know, Beth, you think that's weird, don't you? I listen to it all the time.
I listen to it sometimes. I don't think I listen to it as religiously as you do.
Yeah, I don't know if it's not very religious. Like it's not. Yeah, no, I have been because I think they're absolutely hilarious. And I get little nuggets every time I go back and listen, which is great. So bizarre. So bizarre.
Oh, gosh.
Woo! Okay, so we are talking about how to be more confident in your conversations. And I love this topic. Love it, love it, love it. And it's, again, pretty timely because performance reviews are coming up. You're positioning yourself in your business. And fun fact for you, Beth, did you know that confidence impacts outcomes?
Wow, I think I did hear that before, maybe right here out of your mouth at some point.
Did you know how much confidence impacts outcomes?
No, please, please share with us.
Okay, so all right, so for those of you that are in sales, stop multitasking and listen for a second because this is really like this is big. Underconfident negotiators are only successful 20% of the time. I'm going
Ugh,
to flip that. So 80% of the time, if you are not confident going into a negotiation, you are not negotiating favorable terms. So, for those of you that are in sales, for those of you that negotiate, if you own your own business and you're negotiating a contract, for those of you who lead people that go into contract negotiations, why would you send them in there with a 20% success rate? Would you, Beth, would you go to a surgeon with a 20% success rate?
no, I would not.
No. How about a dentist?
No,
Mechanic?
no,
Why
no.
then why then would you or anyone else that leave the one of the most important parts of your business and your life, which is money? It's important. I'm not saying money's the most, I'm just saying it's important. Why would you leave that to chance? You got to get yourself trained, which is what we're doing today. So, how are you, Beth?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. You're really fired up about this, and I love it. And you know what? I can see coming from sales, this is like a direct thing that has to be addressed. But it's also in this smaller, like entrepreneurial environment that I'm in because I work with a lot of women. And confidence is an issue on so many levels, and definitely, communicating when it comes to money. So
Totally agree. Totally agree. So we're going to help. Hopefully we're going
yes.
to help.
Hmm.
All right. So let's talk. What are we talking about? It's funny. I have the notes. Oh, here we go. Here we go. I'll start because I'm the one that was most excited about it. Well,
Okay,
I know
do it.
you're excited too. Okay. So let's talk about when you, Beth, you, Nancy, you, Podsters, people in general, when are they least confident? So Beth, when are you least confident in a communication? Like when are you least confident when you're talking?
When I feel like I don't know enough about what I'm talking about, I would say. Or if it's like something I'm doing for the first time.
So could you be more specific?
Yes. So oftentimes when I first started writing, if somebody asked me for a proposal for a certain type of writing, and I hadn't done that yet. So let's say a press release, right? Or an
Yeah.
email sequence. I would talk about it, but I definitely would be like, who do I think I am? I don't know what I'm doing. I've never written that before. How am I going to write it? And so luckily, it didn't take me that long to realize that like if you know how to write and if you're a good fit with your client and you understand their voice, after those things, I can write anything for them, right? Because there's templates out there. I'm sure if you're hiring people on Fiverr or Upwork and they're
Hmm.
working really quickly, which is fine, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's where you are and your investment level and what you want. But there's plenty of templates out there. You can Google anything. You can Google how to write my own website copy and find it and do it, right? But I find that, yeah, like once I know somebody, I can write anything for them, even if it's something I haven't written before, because I wrote everything for the first time once.
Exactly. And right, if you don't know what you're doing and you don't know how to do it, then you don't feel like you're adding value, right? You don't feel like why would they give you why would you it's a proposal, why would they pay you if you're not adding value? So and the number one way to be more confident is to know, excuse me, and own your value.
Your value is, yes, I
Yeah.
agree fully. And 9 out of 10 times, I think you can totally play that against whatever you feel your weakness is.
Yep. 100%, 100%. And I want to
So,
actually I'm sorry, did you want to
no,
finish that thought?
that's okay. Go ahead.
I wanted to bring this to the over to the corporate world. So the listeners who are not in business for themselves, And they wouldn't be able to find necessarily a format for what you're talking about. There are great pieces of advice out there on the intranet, on the world, on the World Wide Web. That so, for example, let's say you're going in for a salary increase. That's a very common high stakes conversation. You can Google. First of all, you should buy the book, because we have specific scripts for how to ask,
Oh
or
yeah.
how to, and I just said ask, for how to discuss your salary increase, right? So
Yes.
the first thing is to get ask out of your head, and you're going in to discuss it, and that's going to get you in a better mindset. So anyway, or you can Google it, right? You can Google tips to negotiate your salary. So to Beth's point, you get to the point where you're adding value, and especially if you've read the book, here are the 3 reasons why you should give me the raise that we are discussing at this point. So I just wanted to take a second to say that there are templates out there for everything. I'm not saying go look at a template. I'm saying find the template, practice it, write it down, boom, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So one of the times I used to be least confident in my conversations is giving and receiving constructive feedback. And
Yeah.
I had the air quotes going there, everyone. Um, First of all, can we all just say that constructive feedback, while in theory it is an accurate term, I feel that it is kind of bullshitty, because I just made up a word like you did last week. Because if you're not delivering it the right way, the person receiving it is not going to think it's constructive. So it might be difficult feedback. Yes, it's constructive, but the best way to lose someone is to say, "Can I offer you some constructive feedback?" Right? Like, no, no,
Especially in that tone, I think that's not effective.
right. But even, like, let's say you would say it nicely, like, "Hey, Nance, can I offer you some constructive feedback?" And maybe it's because of my years in corporate. Right away, I get, and I love feedback. I'm very self-aware. I love feedback. I put myself out there on the daily. So I want the feedback. When I just, what was the movie? Rachel Dratch was in it. It was a bunch of women, and they're walking through a vineyard. Rachel Dratch plays a psychologist, and she says, "Can I offer you some feedback?" And I think that's great. Can I offer you some feedback? I would just take away the disclaimer. It, it might not be constructive. Anyway, went on a little rabbit hole there. So tell us about the feedback with the client that didn't give you feedback.
Yes. Yes. So I had a client and I was really excited to work with this person, and they had great energy and just really passionate about what they did. And I was excited about it. They had worked in journalism previously, which is a very different type of writing than persuasive sales and copy sales writing.
Mm-hmm.
And I did what I normally do. There was a questionnaire. I had a long, strategy call with this person to make sure that I understood their voice and everything else. And there were a number of deliverables, and I started to work on them. And I would send them back and say, "Hey, so here's the first draft." And I'm always careful with my words. "Here's the first rough draft of your stuff. Please let me know what you want to add, what you want to change, what you want to this." Sometimes I would have to send it a second time. And then I would get, "I'm uncomfortable with this. I don't really like this. And you didn't say this, and you didn't do that, and you didn't this, and this isn't what I want to say, and this isn't professional, and this isn't blah, blah, blah. And I thought you were going to write this the way that I wanted it." And I was like, "Well, if you can tell me the specifics, like, this is the process. I write what I think you want, and then you can say, this part is good, but can we judge this part, or can we change this language, or, can we do that?" And I say, "Of course." And I go back to the drawing board and I do that again. And it's, this collaborative thing. And it happened, a couple of times. As I said, there were a number of pages and deliverables I was working on. And she actually got kind of nasty, kind of belligerent about it, and, saying that I didn't know what I was doing, this and then it came down to she was uncomfortable giving me feedback, uncomfortable telling me, I don't necessarily like this part. I don't, do this. I don't do that. And she said, I'm uncomfortable telling you that there are things I don't like. Okay, so you just ripped me a new one.
Right. Right.
But you don't want to give me any honest feedback.
Right.
And there was nothing I could do. There was absolutely nothing I could do because
Yep.
I'm not a mind reader. I mean, I come pretty close, I have to say. I mean, I know people's energy and voice really well when I'm working with them, but yeah, it was just when we had to like part ways. And I was more than happy to, because it became very, very stressful. And when you have a situation like that, you start to question, maybe I don't know what I'm doing, right? Why is this person so upset and this and that? And I think that in some ways it was a cultural thing that that just wasn't what she was used to. Like she just wanted to throw a bunch of words at me and have me put it in perfect. Like even thinking about it now, I'm just like, whoo, it was a ride. And I feel bad because that person will never get the high quality of work they should from people they hire if they
Right.
can't give feedback. I mean, we are human at the end of the day.
Yep. Yeah. 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 It's interesting because in what the pre-work you sent her, I'm sure you outlined, and we'll have a conversation, and here's what yeah, that's weird.
Oh yeah. It was
Yeah, that's
just
weird.
really, really interesting. And
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Was this before the C word happened or after?
it might have been before. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that, okay. So I think that we're talking about giving constructive feedback, which could be a difficult conversation. So it's a broader. So what I'm about to say is about a broader genre
Mhm.
here, which is difficult conversations.
Absolutely.
And human connection has never been more important. So we all went through the ringer, right? We tend to forget that our world was completely tossed. I think people still are seeking that human connection.
Mhm.
So when someone, let's say I'm a leader and I need to give someone difficult feedback or have a difficult conversation. So this could be a termination, which I've had to do a couple of times. It could
Mhm.
be several times actually. Could be feedback from one of my salespeople and how they did on a presentation. Could be a number of different things. What I think is most important that you remember that human connection has never been more important. And what you say and how more importantly than what you say, how you say it is going to turn a difficult conversation into a constructive conversation. And some of the things that I like to do, or I try to do when I'm giving the quote constructive feedback, is be generous with my time while also being clear that I have an end time. Um, So, it could be something like, hey, Beth, thanks so much for meeting with me. I allotted a half hour, right? Let's say I'm terminating your employment, right? Nobody wants to do that ever. So, hey, Beth, thanks for meeting with me. I have a scheduled for an 11:30 downtime. If we don't talk about everything you want to cover today, let's set something up for a later date, right? So that tells you I have half hour and I have an end time. I'm not blowing you off, but after 11:30, we're not talking about this anymore, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I also think that if it's sometimes when we have a difficult conversation, we apologize. Like, I'm so sorry I have to share this with you, but when the alerts go off on your computer, I find it very distracting when we're recording a podcast, which by the way, they're not. So that problem was solved. So, I'm really sorry to have to bring this up. I'm really sorry. You, you're making it about you.
Mhm. Right.
And like with the client, if you had said, I'm really sorry to have to do this, and I'm really sorry. So first of all, you may or may not be sorry. Um, and it dilutes the message. The message is, here's the behavior, here's the fact, here's the outcome. Let's talk about next steps. Again, I'm going back to terminating employees, which is, again, nobody likes to do this.
Oh, no, it's
Or,
horrible.
right? Or terminating a client relationship. I remember I had to lay someone off and I was very upset about it. So upset actually that I got shingles before I had to do it. Crazy.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah. I knew what to do, and I started the conversation with, "I am so sorry I have to deliver this message to you." I apologized and apologized and apologized, and finally, throughout the call, finally she said, "Nancy, stop apologizing." Like, she was angry, and I don't blame her. I would have been too. So, that's another tip. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Situation,
absolutely.
behavior, result. No feelings. Which, I'm not saying be a robot, but I'm saying, like, they don't care. If somebody's getting bad news like that, um, you know, they
Well,
don't care if you're sorry.
this makes me think of, one of my favorite things is the whole facts and feelings element of something like that. At the end of the day, uh, the thing I hate to hear people say is, I feel bad. I feel bad I have to do that. I feel bad I have to say that. And you can feel bad. It's not that you can't, but you still have to do it, right? And you have to let go of the fact that you can't control the person's reaction that you're talking to, right? And then you have to prepare yourself not to react to their reaction, right? To just really make sure you're taking that pause and you're breathing, because somebody who gets let go, continue to use this as an example, they have a right to react and be kind of
Of course.
upset, and ticked
Yes.
off. And I would react, like that too. I might try to contain myself, but the other thing I would say is, I think about this constantly. You have to think about, how are your words landing on somebody when you're saying the things that you're saying, right? Like, so you're saying, if you say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." Well, ahead of time, if you can, it's really helpful to think about, what does that mean to the person I'm saying it to?
Right.
How are they to
Right.
take it? Is it helping the situation? Because then I just need to stop it.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. And one of the things we talked about in pre-planning was proactively preparing for handling the reactions that you get and
Mhm.
answers that you might not expect, um, or don't like. So I have somebody in my life that is very, very difficult. We all do, right? We all do. Do you
Yes.
have someone in your life that's very difficult?
Yes, there's always
Oh,
something.
oh yeah, yeah. So I need to mentally prepare. And
Mhm.
sometimes I won't role play it in my head, but I'll say, okay, this person's going to say this. I know what they're going to say. And here's how I'm going to react. And when I started doing that and being more thoughtful in my approach, I started having better conversations. It didn't change the outcome. They weren't better conversations. I started having less anxiety about them and I started being less triggered by these conversations. I know this person is going to say this. Why would I think they would say anything different than they've said the last 100 times we've had the same conversation? How am I going to react when they say that?
Exactly.
So that it kind of diffuses it.
Right. So I definitely want to say at least one more thing. You might remember this, a little over a year ago, one of my daughters had to go in and do a salary negotiation. And this is another thing that's in the
I do
book.
remember. Yeah.
And I remember saying to her, you don't want to go in and say, "Well, I did this and I did that and I did this and I did that." You want to show them, I increased this for the company. My work
Hmm.
doing X, Y, and Z made this easier for the company. I streamlined this. I leveled this. And, to show what she had done to benefit the company, and not so much to walk in like a victim who was, had hurt feelings because they didn't get the dollar amount that they thought. And I just was really grateful that I actually had that advice to give to her. So,
Yeah, that's perfect. And that's a great segue. So if it's a salary negotiation, again, there's a chapter of this on the book. It's here's what I did, here's why it matters, right? And what was the result? What was the so what? Here's what I did, here's why it matters, what was the result? So if you go in with three examples of, I did this, it saved the money this, I did this, you care because it was a process improvement and it saved the company X amount of dollars. Great. So I'm glad you brought that up. It's here's what I did, here's why it matters, and here's the so what. And So if you lay all of this out and all of the value that you're providing, and then they don't give you a commensurate salary increase, really, you could, it depends on how aggressive you want to be. You could say, well, this is disappointing because this is showing me that you don't value my contributions. I mean, that's aggressive. It's
Yeah, but
aggressive.
sometimes people need it, right? Sometimes you have to kind of smack them on the side of the head with a little aggression.
Yeah, they totally, totally, totally. The other thing with salary negotiations is, oh, this is big. Thank you for getting me off my little tangent there, is to have your walk away. So this is your salary walk away. So this
Mhm.
is the amount. You've done your research ahead of time. You know what is a reasonable expectation. This actually, it's either an increase or if you're negotiating a job offer, you know what's reasonable, and you have already identified that here is the number at which I no longer feel valued and I will not accept the job, or whatever the case may be. So it's stuff like, what are other salary, what's the average salary for like positions? What have I done for the company? How long have I been here? How much money did I, what do I bring to the company? What's different and unique that I bring to the company that can translate into a so what? And then you also look at other benefits that they're including. Is there a travel benefit? Is there a dry cleaning benefit if you're going to the office? Is there equity? Whatever the case may be. So I actually have one of those. It's available free for anybody who wants it. You just go to if you join my confidence community, you will get a walk away salary calculator. Woo! I'm on fire here. Fire. And the other thing too is when you're negotiating your salary, you're not asking for a salary. You're not asking for an increase.
You're discussing it. Yeah.
Technically, you're asking, right? Because they can say no, but you're discussing it. Words here again, and go back to your toolkit. Everything, the power positioning, like 1/3 of the book, unmute yourself and speak up to stand out, is about how to advocate for yourself when it comes to salary increases and when it comes to negotiating a salary. Anything else on confident
I
conversations that
think
you
that
can
was
think of?
good. I mean, I almost feel like we could just go on a marathon about it, but I think that's good. I think we've left the podsters with a lot to think about today about confident communication.
Yeah, I do. I do. There was one more thing I wanted to talk about. Am I going to be able to find it in time? I don't know. Yeah, I think so. I want to share a story about some feedback that I got once. I
Okay.
didn't get to share it.
That's
So
okay.
this is for the people so I'm sure everybody listening can think about a time when they got feedback that was not presented to them well. So, right? I'm sure everybody has. I mean, I can think of several examples right now. Um, the first thing I want to make sure everybody does is ask if it's appropriate, if it's in a situation where you can say, are you in a place where I can give you some feedback? Or what I often say, I actually just said this to a friend of mine, are you looking for feedback here? Because they might not be. And if they're
Right.
not, right? Like if they're not, then now's not the time to give them the feedback. I have had somebody give me feedback, a boss give me feedback on the phone while they were going through TSA. So this was a difficult conversation. She hung
Yes.
up and called me back 4 times. I finally said, why don't we have this conversation when you can talk to me uninterrupted? And this was not early in my career, guys. Okay, so these people are out there. Another person, I wanted to give feedback. I wanted to share some news with my boss. And we were at a client event and it was the end of the night and we were both exhausted. She sat down, she laid herself in her chair and she goes, I am so exhausted. I am so spent. Oh my God. I'm just like so fried. So what did you want to talk about?
Yeah, no good. That's no good.
And yeah, and that's it. So lots to unpack here. This was a long one. This was a longie.
Yes.
This was a longie.
Yeah.
All right, Podster. So what do we have coming up in Feb? Oh, I happen to have the list right here, Beth. You want me to go through it?
Please do.
Okay. We have, equity.
Oh, that's going to be a goodie.
Oh, right. Yeah, that is going to be a good one. So we're going to talk about equity. Equity is not just money. Equity is opportunity. Equity is invitation. Yeah, that's going to be a really, really good one. It's about inclusion. Yeah, this is great. We are talking about self-sabotage and how to beat the holiday hangover. We figured, Podsters, that come February, if you're anything like me, I can only speak for me. Come February, you're like, yeah, okay. I thought I was Beyonce, but really I'm Courtney Love. Like, yeah, not so great.
Oh, God.
Beth, talk about the one that you brought up that I don't love the term.
So you don't love the term.
I just left you a voice message about this last night. Kin keeping. Kin
Oh,
keeping.
keeping. It is a creepy term, right? Kin
I think
keeping.
it's like it. I
It's
feel
cultish.
very
Sounds like a
like
cult.
yes, yeah. Well, that's my kin. I'm gonna keep them out back.
That's right.
Um, tell the podsters what that's about and what to expect.
So kin keeping is, I'll tell you what I know so far. There's a lot of information popping up about it. It's definitely like
Yep.
bubbling like a volcano ready to explode. So kin keeping is about the silent work that women do that causes them stress and anxiety that they don't draw attention to. And that, I'm going to say it, that the men in their lives don't realize is happening, right? That's the traditional sort of feeling around it. So, if you're the woman who, it's 6 weeks to vacation and you start to make sure everybody's got bathing suits and who's going to take care of the cat and do you have enough suntan lotion and what kind of snacks should you buy and which car are you going to drive and is there gas in the tank and all of those little things that you think about. And then that day, everybody just shows up and gets in the car and thinks that it was a no-brainer. And you're stressed about it. And your husband might say, or your partner might say, what are you so, freaked out about? But we don't say it. Or like if there's a family holiday and all the women are in the kitchen and they're, helping the woman, it's because they know what it's like to be in that position. But rather than figure out how to break out of it, they just keep doing it. It's not only it's the guy's fault. It's also our fault if we continue to do it and not say, hey, over here, I did all these things. And I think Nancy will agree that then when you go to work, it can be the same way, where behind the scenes, maybe you're doing all the stuff that doesn't get noticed. And if you don't draw attention to it, how are you going to get any sort of acknowledgement for it and promotion or raise or anything like that? So it's an interesting topic. And I know it goes a little bit deeper than that. So
yeah, we're gonna cover that, and yeah, that's gonna be a good one. We have some real life anecdotes about that. Boy, do we! I think that's it for now. We got some other things. So, Podsters, if there are topics you would like us to cover, shoot us a note. Hit us up on LinkedIn, Instagram, our websites, wherever the case may be. We are working on having a voicemail feature where you can click and leave us a voicemail. Actually, that exists now. So, Podsters, if you want to leave us a voicemail and you want to ask a question or you want to make a suggestion, we are open to feedback. Thank you. You can go to our website. So if you're in your app, whatever it is, it will say go to podcast website. Click on that, and it says leave a message. You can leave a voice message, and we will get it. It's kind of cool. We are so techie.
We are techie. So did you say there's a link to that, Nancy?
The link automatically exists in whatever your app is. There's a link that says go to the website, go to the show website.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And when we'll be live on LinkedIn, come and join us if you can and pop some comments in the chat.
Yes, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that.
It's gonna be epic.
Epic.
Epic. Okay, good chat.
Yes.
Bye, girl.
Bye.
That's a wrap on another episode of Unmute Yourself, the podcast. We hope you found value in today's podcast. We hope you were able to take a little time for yourself and perhaps think about how you're showing up.
And thank you for all of the great feedback we've been receiving. We'd love to hear more from you about what you think, the tactics you're using every day to speak up, and anything else you'd like to hear about on future episodes of Unmute Yourself, the podcast. You can contact us through our websites. Nancy can be found at nancymedoff.com, and Beth can be found at that'saspade.com. Or you can email us at unmuteyourselfthepodcast, all one word, at gmail.com.
We will see you next week, and until then, keep speaking up.